If you've put on weight over the years, maybe you're a little heavier than you want to be, and you're discouraged because you just feel like, gosh, it's almost too late to start. Like I kind of am who I am, but I wish I could get back to where I was. You need to listen to today's podcast. My guest, Janet McConnell, transformed her life at 47 years of age. And at 48 years old, she went on stage as an IBFF competitor and competed in a natural bodybuilding contest. This woman is a ray of sunshine. She is so much fun. And she talks in just regular person terms about what you need to do to make these changes in your life and to transform your life. She's written a book, and she's now in her late 60s. And she committed on this podcast that when she turns 70, she's going to step on stage again in a teeny weeny bikini as a natural bodybuilder at the age of 70 years old. So enjoy this. Take inspiration from this, and most of all, realize it's never too late to start. You know, in her mid-40s, Janet faced a health crisis that became the catalyst for a life-changing transformation. She was overweight, fatigued, and plagued by health issues, and she knew she had to rewrite her story. Through a disciplined journey of weight loss and strength training, she not only shed 50 pounds, but also unlocked a new chapter in vitality and purpose in her life. At nearly 70 years old, she's a certified fitness trainer, IFBB national champion bodybuilder, and an advocate for healthy longevity. Janet's transformation extends far beyond the physical. It reshaped her mindset, strengthened her resilience, and instilled a commitment to empower others to take charge of their health. Her journey is proof that it's never too late to reinvent yourself, no matter the obstacles. Janet, welcome to the ThriveMore podcast.
Thank you so much, Roger. I really appreciate that. I wish I could have you just introduce me on every stage when I speak. It would be amazing.
I've had somebody say, hey, just call me every morning when I wake up and just get me going for the day. Just get me going for the day. That's funny. That's funny. Well, I'm excited about this. And to the listeners that are watching on YouTube, you can see I'm holding up her book right now. It's called Elements of Aging Well. And I've read this book, great book, easy read. She wrote it in a very easy way to consume. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, we'll put the link at the end in the show notes. But to get started, because most listeners probably have not read your book, you know, Janet, could you talk about your relationship with health and wellness and what it was like? I think really in your 40s was when this all started, when you had that extra 50 pounds on and you were like the average American, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's funny when I think back because I was sort of oblivious to the fact that I was becoming more and more unhealthy. I think because it happened rather gradually. And I was also so focused and enthralled with my career. I was enjoying it. I was doing great at it. I was getting promoted and I was enjoying learning new things and the stimulation of traveling all over the country to meet many, many people that I was working with as a trainer and as a facilitator. Mm-hmm. So I think I just got to this point where I was kind of comfortable being, like you said, kind of like the average American.
Yeah.
But oddly enough, it was so far removed from how I grew up. I grew up in a household where health was a huge priority. My parents were vegetarians, and I was a little athlete. And I was a star athlete in school. I was always very good at running, gymnastics, and swimming, and had lots of those little trophies and ribbons and loved it, right? But then when I grew up, got married, got my first career and just started out slowly, that I never really had an exercise routine. It was more that it was time for practice for our team sport or something. So it kind of drove itself. So I didn't have a regular routine of going to the gym or running or anything. So I just launched into my career and loved it. But the years, the decades of not paying attention to exercise, plus I had a lot of business travel. So I was eating hotel food late at night, grabbing a bagel and running for a flight. And the only exercise I got was running down the the cars,
The-
down the jetway.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, I just didn't really think about it. I was getting chubbier, but I could just get a bigger size. I didn't really worry about it too much. And
Yeah.
my husband's great. He's like, "You look beautiful anyway."
Oh,
He never
yeah.
really said, "Oh, you're getting a
Yeah.
little pudgy."
Yeah. Well, good for him. Good for him.
He's a wise man. He's not.
Yes, I was gonna say that's the couch gets uncomfortable after a while. So yeah. Yeah.
So, I did then, as one does, goes to a medical annual physical,
Hmm.
and my doctor, he just kind of like looked at me in his little half glasses and pushed a pile of prescriptions across the table to me, and as we sat after my kind of the consultation after the appointment, and he goes, "Janet, I don't know what's going on, but you have the signs of early heart disease. You're borderline obese. Your blood work is through the roof as far as all the numbers are bad. What's going on?" And I was stunned. It was
Yeah.
like being struck by lightning. I couldn't believe that he was talking to me because
Yeah.
I still had that youthful vitality idea in my head of who I was. My image had not really shifted along with what reality was showing us.
Yeah. Your identity. You still identified with that young athlete that, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And because I was in my mid-40s, I still had a little bit of a grace period. I mean, if I hadn't done that and gone another 5 to 10 years, I think I would have started really feeling the effects of the bad health habits. But because I still had I just kind of masked what was really going on.
Janet, I think you've described probably 90% of the people who are in the 75% of our country who are overweight or obese. Nobody plans to get there. Nobody, tries to do. You wake up one day and realize, oh my God, I'm there. Wow, what happened?
Yes.
It's, I mean, we have all kind of noticed when our jeans get a little tighter and we're like, these jeans are shrinking. At least that's what I told myself for a while,
Yeah.
and but it's until you kind of have that wake up call that you always think, well, next week I'll tackle this next week, until somebody confronts you with it, which it sounds like it was the doctor that did that.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And when I saw that stack of prescriptions, all I could think of was my grandma or something. Like
Yeah.
it looked like the kind of stuff that she had to do. And I'm like, I'm 46. What in the world? And so something just really pushed back. And when I look back on it, it was almost like this little voice in my head. And the little voice was little Janet. And she said, "You haven't even given your body a chance." Because I knew that I was strong. I knew I had this constitution of a little athlete. And so luckily I had known my doctor for quite a while. I'd been going to him for, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 years. So he knew me. And I just clamped my hand down on those papers and said, "Give me 6 months." I was bargaining with, he goes, "Are you
Yeah.
bargaining with me?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "I don't like the sound of this because I'm sure people, plead
All
for
the
their
time.
lives."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But he said, "No, I know you're made of good stuff. I know you'll follow through maybe, I mean, I bet more on you than most." But he said, "Okay, I'm going to make an appointment with you for 6 months from now and you're going to keep it. I know where you live." And I said, "Okay, if the numbers are still bad, then I'll fill those stupid prescriptions, but I think I can fix it." And everybody thinks that.
Yeah.
So, I left the office and I got into my car and I just sat there and cried. I cried mostly because it was shocking me, but I was so angry. I was so, I don't know, embarrassed and frustrated and scared, and it was just a bunch of emotions.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of pulled myself together, and when I got to work, one of my bosses had a trainer, and she said,
Hmm.
because I realized I made a bargain and I had no plan.
Yeah.
0. I had no idea what I was gonna do. I don't know, eat cottage cheese and lettuce for the next 6 months. So, she said, "Why don't you talk to my trainer? He's really good." And so I did, and I had never had a personal fitness trainer as an adult. But I gave him a call and I started working out with him and I set up. it was 3 days a week at 5 a.m. And I had to do it that way because I started actually the first week or 2 was in the evening, and I was so tired and demotivated. And also my boss sometimes would schedule last minute meetings. And so it kept getting in the way and I kept missing my trainings. And so I said, the only way I'm going to be able to do this is to do it first thing in the morning when everybody's asleep. And so that's what I did.
You
So
know, and there's a lot of studies that show that is the preferred way. I don't work out in the morning. I work out in the evenings.
yeah.
But when I do work out in the morning, for what I wake up early, I just can't sleep. I'm like, well, I might as well get it done, or
Right.
whatever. I love it because then I always finish and think, I just did the hardest thing I'm going to have to do today.
Yes. Yeah.
Versus working all day and then thinking, oh crap, now I got to go do the hardest thing at the very end of the day. It's
Yeah.
just, I do believe in, there's morning people and evening people, and you can make yourself a morning person somewhat, but I'm not, but I'm with you that if you can do that, damn, the rest of the day just gets so much easier.
Right. And I
Yeah.
always tell people, do what works for you. I'm not the gold standard. I just found what works for me. So try different things. Don't get
Yeah.
discouraged if it doesn't work. Try a different way. And you come to find what works for you.
Yep.
And that's what worked for me. And also, yeah, that thing you said about how I'm doing the hardest thing. I remember you triggered a memory that I would get done with a really heavy leg press and think, nothing I do for the rest of this day is going to be this hard.
Yeah.
And I have to remember that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a motivator. So yeah, that having that discipline and that resolve really made a difference in my career too. I mean, it made me more fearless and intrepid about dealing with sticky problems. I could do it. So yeah, so the 6 months went by and I have to give you a side note, not one change in my diet.
Mm.
So
Because I was
I
getting ready
was,
to ask you about, okay,
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
this segment is sponsored by Rockbox Fitness Franchising. Take control of your destiny and join the boutique fitness revolution with Rockbox Fitness. If you're ready to make a real impact in your community and own your own business that empowers people to achieve their best life, then Rockbox is the opportunity you've been looking for. They provide comprehensive support from site selection, upfit, training, and turnkey marketing, so you can open your studio with confidence and a strong recurring revenue member base. Visit rockboxfitness.com and click on franchise opportunities to learn more about this exciting venture in the fast-growing boutique fitness industry. It's time to turn your passion for fitness and for business into a thriving venture. Go ahead and tell and share what happened at the end of the 6 months where you were, but I do want to go back and talk about strength training specifically. So, go ahead.
Right. Right. So all it was strength training, resistance training. My
Yep.
trainer was a bodybuilder oriented trainer, not CrossFit or strength training, but not like Olympic lifting.
Mhm.
More like just resistance training to experience hypertrophy, which
Mhm.
means building muscle. So I loved it right away. I just loved it. So I was fortunate in that in the whole roulette wheel of what to pick, I picked something that was really great for me. So I never missed and I loved going. And on the days when I didn't feel great, I just knew I had to show up and my trainer would take me by the hand and make me stronger.
Yep.
So there was that accountability partner that made a huge difference. So I went back 6 months. I had lost 30 to 35 pounds of weight. Now, at that point, I was not measuring fat or muscle, so I don't know the composition of that. And I did look way better. And when I did the blood tests, all the tests, the cholesterol, the everything, you know, all of my heart stuff was better. Triglycerides, all those little markers that are a danger sign were all better. So yeah, my doctor said, okay. He said, don't quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
He goes, I'm going to let you off the hook. I've still got the prescription sitting right here. So I said, well, I'm not going to quit. And because I really loved it, I enjoyed
Yeah.
doing it. So at that point, like I said, I had not yet even looked at like how many calories I was eating, how much protein, how much, and no supplementation, nothing. Just showing up and working out, and then going ahead and having, a half a pound of yogurt covered pretzels when I felt like it.
Okay, so I love it. So let's just reverse just a half a beat. There's much less of this now because of social media and not more information is being shared. But there is still so I own a fitness franchise. I'm the franchisor
Mhm.
and Rockbox Fitness, and I love what you said. I found something that I loved and worked for me, and so I wanted to do it. And that's with Rockbox Fitness. It's a kickboxing for fitness. Nobody gets punched. It's a kickboxing for fitness concept with strength training in the back for the second half of the class. And we always say, just what workout's the most effective? Whatever one you do. So if lifting is what you love, do that. If kickboxing is what you love, do that. If Pilates is but just find what you love. But if we go back a half a step, I have dealt with this so much because I've owned a couple Rockbox studios as well. Um, in talking to clients, that women are scared to death to lift weights because they think they're going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Speak to that and just what a misconception that actually is.
That would take lots of illegal steroids.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, there are well, it's funny because when I told my husband, "I'm gonna do bodybuilding," he's like, "What?" I knew why he said that is because he pictured some of those photos you see of these really, like, roided out, ripped women that
Yep.
look very manly in the classic sense.
Yep.
And it is a niche of that sport that is very specialized, and they are amazing to watch, but I do not aspire to do that. I wanted to look more like a fitness model, just like toned muscles, a little bit larger, but not big, and just look amazing and lean and strong. And so I showed him some pictures of the fitness competitors that I was looking for. And he goes, "Oh, well, that's acceptable." I was like,
That's great.
That's the goal there."
That's great.
But
Yeah.
but to speak to the women listeners out there, you guys, you have to eat so much food, so much protein, so many calories, and get more hormones than you can even imagine in order to get that big.
Yeah.
And, the women who get that big and get that muscular the way you don't wanna look necessarily, there's all the male, traits come in too, like, you start to get the whiskers and the deeper voice and some hair loss if it's in your genetics to have the male pattern balding. So it's not pretty, and they all experience that when they get that big. But for the level that I was doing at, you simply need to be healthy, and it's over time. So the thing about steroids is it does speed up the process. So for the dudes who take steroids and get really big, they can't just take the steroids and get really big. They have to do the work. So everybody does the work. Just depends on what your goal is. And I would say that lifting heavier weights, so, move past the little 10-pound dumbbells and really lift weights that make you tired, that make you feel sore the next day. That means your body is going, wait a minute, there's something new going on and we need to adjust. So what you're doing is you're showing your body, here's the work I'm asking you to do. Let's adjust. And the body is like, okay, got it.
Yep.
And it starts working on it. So you're kind of leading the way by your behavior and what you're asking your body to do. And then you have possibly a trainer who helps you do these things without getting hurt so that you use proper form, proper progression, progressive overload, and all of those things that help you build a much, more firm physique. Because what happens, this is the thing, when you build more muscle, you burn more calories per minute. So, 5 pounds of muscle burns way more calories than 5 pounds of fat to maintain. So your basal metabolism is much higher. So sitting on the couch watching Dancing with the Stars, you are losing more weight than if you were heavy, with fat. So it's just so much easier to lose weight,
Yeah.
lose fat when you have the muscle.
Yep.
So it's just magical.
Yeah. So when did you, because at some point a switch flipped for you to say, hey, I'm not only losing weight because I want to live a healthier life and live longer and look better, to I actually want to be up on stage in a teeny weeny bikini with a spray tan and see if I can win a trophy. Like, when did that happen? And this age, you're what? You're in your 50s probably by now, or close
No,
to, or
I was 47.
47. Okay.
So it was a year. So in other words, I took about a year. Well, it took me 6 months to have that initial green flag from my doctor to continue. And
Yep.
I was kind of off the hook. I was off the hook for the life ending serious stuff.
Yeah.
So then I came back to the gym and I thought, okay, so it's just this. This is all I'm going to do. And I realized, oh, I need a goal. I need a new goal. I want to do something more with this. And I didn't know what it was. And then well, it's like whenever you think something like that, that's when stuff shows up, right?
Yeah. Of course.
A couple of weeks later at 5 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, these two women showed up. And they were two fitness clients who were working with another trainer at the same time as me. And it was a small gym. So we're, in proximity all the time.
Mhm.
And they looked like they were just maybe 6 or 8 years younger than me. And they looked amazing. They were just muscular but feminine and had, these beautiful shoulders, and they looked really cute in their little tank top because they didn't have any of that jiggle. And, nice tight lean waist and legs that were firm but had some carving to them. They just looked so beautiful. And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I would love to look like that." And then I noticed they were lifting the same weight I was lifting. The same 20-pound curls, 30-pound whatever, and then
Yeah.
squatting the same weights and everything. They were the same strength as I was. And I asked my trainer, I said, "Look at those girls over there. They're lifting the same weights I'm lifting, but they look like that. And I look like this," because I was still a little fluffy.
Sure.
And so he just said, "Oh, Janet, they're training for a bodybuilding show and it's in 5 weeks. So right now, they are just eating very strategically in order to not lose muscle, but lose fat." And I was like, "There's a diet for that?" And he goes, "Well, yeah," but he goes, "It's really, really hard and most people quit and you wouldn't like it." And I was like, "Bring
Challenge.
it."
Yeah.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
I said, "If you don't get me that diet, I'm gonna find a trainer who will." So, he liked me as a client because I was so consistent and fun, and so he put it together. I think he consulted with a competitive nutrition coach that
Yeah.
works just on that little niche in the sport. And a year later, I was on stage for my first show. So I
Wow.
was 48 for
Oh
my
my
first
gosh.
show, and it
Wow.
was amazing. And I'll never forget the feeling when I was on stage at that time. This is way back in the early 2000s. And I was on stage and the MC read a little short bio. We wrote thing that, just 100 words or something,
Yeah.
and he would read it. And it said in there, because I had lost more weight at that point, more fat, obviously. And so he announced that to the audience that I had just completed a transformation and this is my culmination. And the audience went wild. People were on their feet and they were pounding the seats and they were clapping and whistling. And the impact of that, it just hit me right in the sternum. It was just like, "Oh, I want more of this."
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a dopamine shower.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
dopamine showers.
But all earned. But
Yeah,
all earned.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but it was like I was so focused on my own inner journey that I wasn't
Sure.
realizing the impact it was having on other people.
So when you walk out on that stage though at 48 years of age
Yeah.
in a completely transformed body,
Yes.
um, and there's a picture of you in the book that show, and you look amazing. But as a 48-year-old, 47, 48-year-old, like there's probably a bunch of 21-year-old kids competing too.
Right.
What was going through your mind like as you took those steps onto the stage in that bikini and you're 48 and you've transformed, you went from, your words, fluffy to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
What are you thinking each, the right foot and the left foot as you step up? What are you thinking?
It is really an out of body experience, but it's funny because I'm normally a very modest, shy person about putting on a bathing suit. Even now I'm like, eek. But and so people go, "Oh my God, how could you do that?" Because it's like all these judgy people sitting in the front row with clipboards, and you're wearing like I call it dental floss and sequins. But you know what? When you work that hard and you're so clear on your goal and your focus, you can't wait to get out there and go, yeah, look at this.
Yeah.
I did this. This is my work of art. It's like a live sculpture. So I sculpted, this is my work that I did. And I want to have you give me critique on it. And so and then with the younger girls, they were great. It's funny, people go, did it get catty backstage? And it doesn't, because everybody who's backstage knows what it took to get there. So there's this kind of quiet respect. Nobody is like, oh, they don't do that. It's like, oh, you go, girl. Everybody's really positive. And I think the other thing I thought of is, hey, 20 something, wait till you're my age. Let's see if you measure up
Yeah.
as you're approaching 50,
Yeah.
can you do this? Because so many people, like I did in my career, I fell away from fitness. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And you said it in passing, telling your origin story, but just how getting in shape, getting stronger, more confident, it it showed up in your workplace. It showed up in your career.
Yes.
Talk to me about your experience with the link between having a strong body, having the mindset to compete and to win, and what that did for your professional work.
Yes. For my professional work, one of the things that happened was everybody started noticing that I was looking different. And I kind of, most people were very supportive or curious. And so that was kind of fun. But what I started to notice was that I really felt that feeling of there's something more here. There's something more that I can give, that I can do. My consulting and being director of operations and having all these responsibilities. It's great for your ego when you realize you have 70 people who report to you and you making this big six-figure income and all that. But it was kind of empty,
Mhm.
even though it was good work.
Yeah.
It was there was I got this feeling, and so that kind of planted a seed with me, and I kept going in my job. I got a different job that actually I got promoted up to the point where I couldn't be promoted anymore because the next person was the vice president. And so I thought, okay, well, I've kind of hit the ceiling here. Let me move on. And so I did push myself professionally to get a different job that even paid more and that gave me more responsibility. I thought, okay, that's not doing it for me. What's going on here? And then I realized, because enough people around me said to me, Janet, you're an inspiration, especially at the age you are. You have something that people want, that you can teach them and inspire them and help them and coach them. And you have this thing. And I thought it is kind of unique, because I didn't know of anybody who was my age that was doing, I didn't have any trainer friends or anything and I wasn't a trainer yet. And I just thought, maybe I should get my personal training certification. And so I did. And then I started kind of doing that as a side hustle.
Mhm.
And then I just ended up falling in love with it, because I found that was the thing I was missing, was this kind of sense of service, of mission, and of giving back. And then it was like, okay, I'm all in.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
shifted and opened my own business and just never looked back and continued to compete, of course.
Yeah.
So
What's I think you write about this. So I just can't recall. You did 5 shows, right? You did 5 shows. All right.
I think I've
What
done 6 by now.
6?
Yeah.
Okay. And if you'll what show, how old were you when you were at your oldest doing a show?
62.
Wow. So just audience hear that. Listeners hear that. 62 years old on stage, bikini?
Yes.
Yeah, bikini, dental floss and sequins at 62 years of age competing, which just show and you started in your late 40s. Like it just shows you can do anything you set your mind to. You have to set your mind to it, but if you
Yes.
do, you can achieve it. If you
Yep.
believe it, you can achieve it.
Your mind and your heart. Like I literally fell in love with it. So my mind was stimulated and challenged. I loved something. It's really good in your midlife and into your senior years to find something. It doesn't have to be bodybuilding,
Yeah.
but to find something that is really hard that you can get behind and do it. Because I think as we get older, we start to think, oh, that's for the young people and let them deal with struggle. I'm making enough money. I'm comfortable. I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to do all these cool trips and that's great. But oh man, what happens to the human mind when we get to be middle-aged and older and we latch on to something that's hard? It's really hard and you cannot look away from it. And that's kind of what it did for me. It made me so energized, so much so that I fell in love with it. I felt like weightlifting was a moving meditation and it fed me, and it still does.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by ThriveMore Autopilot. You know, the latest data shows a large amount of small to mid-sized business owners are living paycheck to paycheck, and that is not why you started a business in the first place. We all start businesses to create the freedom in our lives that we want and to give us options. But to do that, you need more leads, and you need to turn those prospects into long-term paying customers. Well, the solution is ThriveMore Autopilot. ThriveMore Autopilot is the turnkey solution to take the stress and the hard work out of new customer acquisition, which is the lifeblood of any small business. ThriveMore Autopilot works on your behalf to generate a waterfall of new leads through various channels, to nurture those leads with proprietary AI solutions that mimic human interaction, to sell memberships and help you increase your monthly recurring revenue, and they even provide you coaching and your team coaching on the most effective sales techniques and give you a community of other like-minded business owners. ThriveMore Autopilot is how you scale your business without stress and the relentless phone calls and texts and reach outs to the prospects to get them to show up for that first appointment or to show up to that call. So learn how ThriveMore Autopilot can help you win big by going to thrivemore.ai. That's thrivemore.ai. ThriveMore Autopilot, the strategic partner for small to mid-sized business owners to help you scale and live the life of your dreams. If you could only give one piece of advice to somebody who is 40, 50, 20, and they've packed on the weight, because our food supply and sedentary lifestyle and all that doesn't matter. However it happened.
Right.
And everybody's rushing to take Ozempic now and all that stuff.
Right.
So if to not go down that pathway, just what's one piece of advice that you would offer to anybody, man or woman, who is fluffy, to use your words, and knows they're not living their best life? Like, what's the first action they need to take?
The first action is to take action.
I love that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stress and anxiety that will build up around this fire that's not lit. It's just smoldering. And pretty soon your whole body and soul will fill up with smoke. And what you need is to light it so that it burns, and take action. So it doesn't even have to be a big sweeping, directive or anything like that,
Yeah.
but just start and just decide that you're going to do. So starting simple is better too, because a lot of times what people do is, all right, that's it. I'm going to exercise and I'm going to eat better and I'm going to, stop drinking and quit smoking. And they have all these things, and it's too many things. And it's really hard to shift all of that. And then you do one thing wrong and you say, oh, well, forget it. I'm just, and then give up and get discouraged. So pick one thing that you can stick with and do it long enough. It's kind of like that atomic habits idea, of he's taking some little thing and then go, okay, that's part of my life now. Okay, what's the next thing? Kind of like I did with exercise. And I mean, it took a long time to get around to thinking about diet.
Yeah.
Like 6 months, but just little by little, and just keep going with small changes because, we sometimes when we see, oh my gosh, I'm so overweight and I want to do something and I got to do it right now. And that motivation is very strong, but that's kind of that's a sprint mindset. And what you want is a marathon mindset. Marathon is very long, and your life for all betting purposes, it's going to be a long one. I mean, it's, there's, unless you get hit by a bus, and if you make it to 40 with no chronic illness or disease, you're going to live a long time because you're already set up you've gotten over the hump, so to speak. But if you don't start taking care of it at that point, it goes downhill faster. So I would say, yeah, start simple and start.
Yeah.
Those are the
Yeah.
two main, most important things. And to understand that you are in the process of building the body you will have in 20 years.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes a long time to turn everything over. So you're going to be a different person, and you're going to experience life in 20 years from now, if you're lucky. And what will that be? So I'm here to rewrite the rules of aging. I mean, it's gotta be a different story than our predecessors, and I'm determined.
I love it. I love it. I once read somebody's definition of aging. Aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. And you said struggle, right? You to struggle. And I've even told I have two grown children in their 20s, and I've told them both, I love you more than anything on the planet. And I wish you struggle. I wish for you struggle because that will build the grit, the resilience muscle that
Yes.
will allow you, if life gets away from you in your 40s, to get back on track and have the grit and the resilience to go to the gym and to follow better nutrition. And I think that's, my own opinion is, as a society, we've lost
Yeah.
that, flexing that grit muscle,
Yes.
and that's what we need. Is there, because you write about the mind body connection and how important that is. I'm curious if there was a book that I always have my guests recommend a title to the audience that affected in a positive way the guest. And so if you could recommend one book, and it doesn't have to be anything to do with bodybuilding or this or that, it's just a book that when you set it down, you said, woof, okay, I'm not going to think about this the same way. This really impacted me. Could you share one?
There's actually 3. One of
Okay.
them is by Ryan Holiday. The obstacle is the way.
Mm.
So when you are doing something that is so hard, that means you're going the right direction. It's not like, oh, this is uncomfortable, I should go over here. No, go toward the difficult. So the obstacle is the way. And it's a really great way. He takes the Stoic philosophy of Marcus Aurelius and so on to, how do you persevere and how do you frame it in your mind? Another one, it's kind of lesser so, but speaks to what you just said about how you want your kids to do the struggle. It's called The Comfort Crisis. And it is written by an author who set out great goals for himself, like ultra marathon and hiking with heavy pack and all the things that we need to do in order to negate comfort, because comfort is a killer if you just stay with it. And the third, actually, the other one's right here. I can show you. It's
Yeah.
Outlive by Peter Attia, Dr. Peter Attia.
Okay.
He's a doctor, a surgeon, a thoracic surgeon, and that's how he started out. And he's very, very fastidious about everything he does, like to analyze. And he's really good at explaining a medical study so that the regular person can understand.
Yeah.
But what he did was he got to be close to 50 and had kids and started thinking about longevity becomes really
It
important
does. Yep.
because you start to feel it's happening to
Yep.
me. And so he really has just totally gone over to this, the science and the art of longevity.
Yeah.
And he gets really in detail, but it's written for the layperson, so you don't have to be a doctor to understand it. He broke it down this is like the Bible for anybody. There's a couple of other people out there that I can't think of the names right now that I have them on my little list that I'm gonna check out more because I've heard them on podcasts. This guy is just like he's the George Washington or the Abraham Lincoln of longevity.
Yeah. Yeah. When we'll put all those in the show notes too, so that the listeners can find those. All right. So, second to last question: if we fast forward to the end of your life, and I love your spirit, and Janet, you're so passionate about the way you talk about your transformation and just your mission. But let's say we get to the end of your very long, very rich life because you're taking care of yourself. But the day comes, and you're looking down from above, and there's a loved one reading your eulogy, but they're only allowed 3 words. They can only have 3 words, and it doesn't have to make a sentence. It doesn't have to be like CJ and run, nothing like that. But they can pick 3 descriptors to describe you. What do you hope? Like, what words do you hope that person chooses if they're only allowed 3 to describe the life you lived and the impact you had on the world?
Well, I would say passion, inspiration, and the last one, I have a hard time saying one word,
I
but
do. I don't.
this comes from my childhood. Seen and heard.
Mm,
I wanna be seen and heard, and I think it's because there's something to say. I have s
yeah.
I when you get to the point where you feel like you really have something to say, then to want to be seen and heard is not some narcissistic, "Look at me, I'm the important no, that's not really it. It's more like, "No, no, I have something to impart that I think can make your life better," or to kind of be a kindred spirit that we can talk about this together as equals. It's not like I'm some sage on the stage.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I've never made a dime from this podcast. In fact, it cost me quite a bit to put this on, but I just feel like if I get the
Yeah.
right guests on and I put in my, like we can share something that will help people, right?
Yes.
We can share. Yeah.
It's the
Um,
service. Mhm.
Service, exactly. So where can people, most important question, where can people find you, follow you, get in touch with you, that kind of thing?
My website is ignitefitnesswithjanet.com.
Okay.
And that has like, I don't know, my professional information.
Mhm.
But I would say the 2 places where my content go, one of them is LinkedIn.
Okay.
So, what I probably should do is make sure that you have all that information for your show notes so people can just click it.
Yep.
That would be the easiest thing to do. My book. And then also, I just started a YouTube channel. I'm coming late to the game,
Better.
late bloomer all the way through.
Never too late to start. I think that's how you started your story, right?
Right.
Never too late to start. Yeah.
So I have a lot of content on LinkedIn. I've been working at that for 3 or 4 months, and I have a social media person that's helped me with that.
Yeah.
And then, my YouTube channel, which I'll also give you the link to,
Yeah.
just began. And so I've got maybe 6 or 7 videos up there so
Yeah.
far. So,
Wonderful. Well,
yeah.
definitely we'll connect afterwards and I'll get that from you. I just want to say thank you for joining. Like I preach a lot about strong mind, strong body, but strong body, strong mind. And it's,
Yeah.
they're probably getting sick of hearing it from me. So I love that you shared that and you have this great story and transformation. So thank you for sharing that with the audience.
Well, I really appreciate this opportunity to share with your audience, and I want your viewers to know to stay tuned because in a little more than a year, I'm gonna be 70 and I'm going to get on stage again.
I
And
love it.
I'm gonna compete in the 70 and over class. And I don't think I'm gonna have a lot of competitors.
That's great.
I thought it would be, I mean, why not? It's my brand.
Hey,
Um, Yeah.
There's something about being the last man or last person standing, right? But
Yeah.
wars of attrition have
That's
changed the
right.
world. So yeah,
That's right. Eventually, I'll win first place
exactly. I love it.
because I'll be the only one there.
I love it.
And
Well,
then
and when you do, I want you to make sure you connect with us and send me a picture. And I'm going to get that on our socials and revisit this episode. Awesome. Well, thank you. And thank you for joining the ThriveMore podcast. I greatly appreciate it. And then to all of the listeners and the viewers, if Janet's message inspired you, I'm sure you have a friend or a family member or somebody else who could also benefit from Janet's message of it's never too late to start, but the first action is to take action.
That's
so
right.
please share this podcast with someone that you know or love or care about. Thank you for tuning in to the ThriveMore podcast. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for any of the resources that we mentioned during the podcast. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you have access to the latest and the greatest. You can connect with me on any of the socials at Real Roger Martin. And be sure to check out our website, ThriveMoreBrands.com. There you'll find information on the brands we support and information on franchising. Thanks again for tuning in.